I feel like working with Manav Paul has been quite life changing in that locking my actors up in the room, in the classroom, because OTT actors do a lot of theatre, maybe in Bombay and maybe in Chennai. Sometimes maybe it happens, like, where the big industries are. I have Alec Padamsi coming to our college. How I mean, you need to do a bunch of things in the theatre to survive, pay your rent and pay your bills. कहते थे कि बॉम्बे में लोग थिएटर करते हैं, पुणे में लोग थिएटर के बारे में सोचते हैं. No idea who our audience is. So we are always surprised when we get a house full. A young woman in Bombay has a very, very privileged lifestyle compared to the rest of the country. Again, I mean, it's more the psychological thing of like being in Delhi and being exposed to that air. There's been a lot of very interesting theatre in this country that has been part of resistance movements, part of struggles. Like, I mean, Safdar Hashmi is part of a larger movement. Like, you guys are young, meet my son, he does youth theatre. The moment somebody got a whiff of a new designer who they could kind of hire, I kept getting hired. An experiential, fun way, creative way. And all kids are creative. That 99% of the people don't notice the lighting in a theatre, but 100% of it feel it. Really, like a lot of theatres have seen a revival, and that's happening across the world. You have to cue something, even if it means going in darkness and moving a chair. I mean, Prithvi, for example, it's like full on almost any given day. It's house going, house full. The sense of it. And theatre is very present. Theatre allows you to be really focused. And this is a really great place to be creative, because you're not just being creative with your hands or with your words or with your mind. You're being creative with your whole body. And in the number of people who are willing to pay a decent amount, ticket money to kind of really fantastic regional theatre, folk theatre, that survives brilliantly. And because theatre is very hyper local, because the commercial Marathi theatre, Gujarati theatre, their audience is very different. They have a very solid, and at any given time, I think some 180 shows happening. Like, it's crazy, right?
Hi friends, in today's episode, we are featuring Gurleen Judge, an accomplished theatre light technician and playwright from Mumbai. In this conversation, we explore Gurleen's journey through theatre landscape in India, her approach to designing light as an emotion, and the evolution of her voice as a playwright. We also take a closer look at the theatre scene in India, its challenges, communities, and its potential as an industry. So whether you are a practitioner or a curious listener, this episode offers an insight into the art and industry of Indian theatre. So if you like today's video, please like and share with your friends. Please leave comments and please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
So the first thing is, how did your journey with dramatic start?
So I always did it in school. Like, my earliest memory of caring about anything is being an 8-year-old, having written a play, running around my school corridor, running behind my friend Bala, forcing him to act in it. Locking my actors up in the room, in the classroom, and making them rehearse my lines. And when I grew up, I was obviously a very confused teenager, like most teenagers, and I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do. And I thought to myself, yeah, that was really my thing, that was the one time I was really completely driven and focused, and I continued doing, I was a good student, but that's mainly because I was a people pleaser in general. So I was like a good student, but I think the whole thing that I really cared about was making theatre in school. And so I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do. And then I had the good fortune of, a lot of it is just serendipity. I just saw one poster of Alec Padamsi coming to our college, went into one of his lectures. Then I didn't have any courage to go up to people and talk. I still don't have any courage. I was who was like, let's go and say hi. And then he was like, you guys are young, meet my son, he does youth theatre. And so I went, Quasar. Again, I didn't have, the first time Quasar still tells me that the first time I met him, I didn't say a word.
Right.
Like an hour-long meeting. I was just too shy and, just too scared to say anything. But I somehow stuck with it. And Yeah, I
Right.
was.
So I knew that his daughter is into acting, but not the son.
No, his son's a great theater director, theater maker. He runs this youth theater festival called TESPO. It's been like going on for like
Okay.
25 years, 27 years now. And it's a really, like, really amazing. I mean, it's a really good, I think it was a very good person to kind of get my starting ground with, because he's really a very hardcore modern contemporary theater person. And I think that that was really good for me because it was very interesting to me. And he taught me everything, actually. I mean, the whole
Oh,
group, there's a whole group of Kwasar, Arya, Toral, um, Vivek, I mean, all those lovely people. They just kind of, I mean, every year they
right.
do it. They teach, because they work with young people so much because of TESPO, that every
Right.
year they meet completely clueless teenagers like me and spend their energy for some reason on us and try to get us motivated into it.
Good to hear that. And so, when I was reading about you, I found out that you're a light technician as well. However, I mean, when one thinks of theater, the first thing that comes to mind is acting or a playwright. But
Hmm.
women into technical side of it, it's
Yeah.
really not very common. So, how
Yeah.
did you get into light design?
I was always just interested in everything that happens in the theater and that happens around the theater. And I was always very interested in shadowing directors and shadowing producers. And I mean, I was so young, I was doing everything. I was literally 17, maybe not even. And, and these people just kind of like, I remember Arya, who's a great lighting designer, he started talking to us about it. Because just because we were curious, we would ask, what is that light plan? What are you doing? And we'd like,
Okay.
he would be kind enough to kind of talk us through his process.
Right.
I think the real initiation into lighting perhaps happened a little bit more seriously is I was interning with Jehan Manekshaw, who
Okay.
runs a company called Theatre Professionals. And basically, I had quit college and I was really good for nothing. And Jehan was like, okay, you just follow me around. Whatever I do in the day, you do with me, and just
Okay.
catch me completely.
Okay.
And so at that point, I think he was lighting because he also trained to be a lighting designer and engineer. He was lighting some of the school shows that he was working on, like his company was kind of producing. And
Right.
so I ended up going on setups with him and seriously assisting him and taking that over. And the thing
Right.
with lighting is that designers are so few in just the
Huh.
whole industry, and I think it's perhaps, I mean, I think it's like worldwide phenomenon. There's very few. So the moment somebody got a whiff of a new designer who they could kind of hire, even if like just somebody who had mild interest in it, I kept getting hired and I kept getting more work and I kept learning as I went along.
Huh.
And just kept winging it, I guess.
What I feel is that theater is a very visual medium.
Yeah.
And the first thing that impacts you visually is actually lights on the stage. When
Hmm.
we say, and even the dialogues and everything comes later. Sometimes I've seen, I mean, there are scenes where it goes completely dark and then, spotlight is on the characters, the corner of the stage. So lighting overall is very,
My favorite, one of my favorites, Jennifer Tipton says that 19, I mean, it's good that you're noticing it, but because then you're probably that 0.1%, because she says that 99% of the people don't notice the lighting in a theater, but
actually,
100% of it feel it.
right,
Because
right.
it's a very experiential thing, because it's a very, you don't, it's about how you feel when you watch somebody in a spotlight, and what does it do to the scene, and what does it do to a character, and what does it do to the directorial voice. I don't think it's very difficult in that sense, but I think the difficulty is to kind of, I think it's like anything else in the theater. I mean, you have to really think about what is the narrative, what does the director want, you have to pierce and try to find, like, that's what I try to do, is that whenever I am up against a project, I kind of try to find some sort of a seed that I can hold on to, some sort of a central, some sur or some vein that I can kind of catch, that then I just keep pulling at, and then kind of that becomes the overarching theme of my design. And when I'm lucky, I'm able to kind of get that from the director or the choreographer, because I also do a lot of dance lighting now. But sometimes I have to invent it. And that's also not such a, like, I think as long as I have the freedom to do it, it's very interesting work. And I used to do a lot of like, because obviously one has to do everything, and I did a lot of like, corporate commercial music shows and things like that. And I just felt like at some point they just weren't interesting to me. Like for me, lighting that's just general lighting is not very interesting to me. For me, I'm very much a theater bacha. I like stories. And so unless the story is interesting, I don't feel like I have fun lighting it. And yeah, so it's kind of, so I mostly avoid now commercial work as a result.
Right.
Penniless.
Please explain, what else entails, staging a production? Apart from lighting, there's so many technical things which,
See, I think that's the thing, like the whole idea of drama, I feel like is the whole idea is that it's experiential, which means that it works on all your senses. So it works on your visual senses, it works on your oral senses, emotional, intelligence, everything. Like ideally, it should be able to kind of give you a whole experience of being a human being, I guess. And so like even in sound design, like I feel like there is a thematic, sometimes replication of themes, sometimes it's contradiction, but all your departments, whether it's light, whether it's sound, whether it's the set design, whether it's the sonography, whether it's the costume, it all kind of builds into the story. So we really, all of us designers really look for that story and really try to, like ideally we should be very good at script analysis actually. Like, just like to be able to like kind of get to the real motivations of the story. And sometimes, like I said, the director's vision helps us get there. And sometimes we have to supply that. And, because obviously the director is really the person who
has the vision, who knows the story.
Who we are trying to support and who we're trying to follow, and we're really trying to, we're a little bit removed, at least in the theater that we do, we're a little bit removed from the playwright, because most of them are dead playwrights. So we don't really meet the playwright, we only have the play and we have the director to guide us. So it's a lot of conversation, but I think it's more important to kind of understand how you can supplement something and how you can add to something, or how do you contradict something also, because that's also a really important function. Sometimes like the story might be going a certain way and like the music really amplifies it, but like you have to construct a lighting that contradicts it, because that's what's needed. You need a dialectic approach, so you have to understand things.
Right.
And there's, of course, a lot of it is just feeling and aesthetic and some basic sense of physics, I guess.
Right. Theatre as an industry, how's it faring in today's world of OTT and social media?
I have to say that post-lockdown, I feel like it's really, like a lot of theatres have seen a revival, and that's happening across the world.
Okay.
I think.
That's contrary to what I thought that must be the case.
Oh, actually, I mean, in terms of, I don't know about what is the kind of work and all of that, but there's certainly, like, it seems that a lot of theatres across the world are doing really well. I mean, Prithvi, for example, it's like full on almost any given day. It's house going, house full, and it's fantastic.
Okay. That's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, I have all sorts of, like, you can talk about what kind of theatre gets the audience, what doesn't, and whether it is even an indication of it being a healthy theatre culture. that you have. So maybe, but I don't know. I don't. And those are complicated things. But yeah, I feel like there's definitely been a revival in the number of people who are willing to pay a decent amount, ticket money to kind of go and watch. It does limit the kind of plays that happen also sometimes because
Okay.
economics of it don't necessarily work always for every kind of play, but I think that in general, yeah, I feel like people are very sick and tired of being at home, no? So
Okay. But I feel that, with new technology, like, all these, like you can buy theater tickets online. These days, you don't have to really line up at a theater and then, buy your tickets from the window.
yeah.
So does that also help, in reviving?
I think yes, completely, because the audience that pays that kind of money for a theatre. Now it's very different, because the commercial Marathi theatre, Gujarati theatre, their audience is very different. They have a very solid, conventional
Fan following.
base, and yeah, they're like it's like pamphlets in every newspaper, and every household has the whole a list of plays, and then at any given time, I think some 180 shows happening. Like it's crazy, right? Like that's
Wow.
very different, very solid mass
really awesome.
base. Yeah, mass base, and actually in a lot of Marathi theatre, I know that they also end up doing a lot of interesting experimental work, and so, but I mean, so that's a very different audience. If I talk about the theatre that I mostly have been working with, is like possibly a Hindi or English theatre audience, which is not really like we don't know. It's a kind of an anonymous entity. Like we don't know.
It's still niche.
It's not really niche because when you get a full house in all these places, you don't think that it's very niche, but you do because or not that the work is also requiring a very niche audience. Sometimes it's really like I don't know, like rom-com type plays that get these audiences. But who these people are, I think there is no real like language for it. Like it's a little bit like I think now because of the kind of marketing, and of course like sometimes because OTT actors do a lot of theatre, and so those kind of like they have their own audience fan following that's coming to watch a play. It's obviously that set of audience only like almost exclusively buys online.
Okay.
They don't have any culture of like it's a new thing that they're doing. It's not part of who it's not such a traditional way of like.
Right.
They book their dinner reservation, everything they do online. So this is like one part of their social activity. But for us, it's always like I've always had this conversation with people who do work in like primarily in Marathi theatre. I'm like, your audience. We don't have no idea who our audience is. So we are always surprised when we get a house full. We're always sad when we get we get less people. We don't have any logic to it. We don't have any crack the code. Whereas the Marathi theatre production already knows how many shows it's going to do and what cities it's going to go. It's going to go to Aurangabad. It's going to go to Nagpur. It's going to do these many shows here. It's going to get that box office. Like they have it all sorted beforehand, and they know their people. They know who these people are. Because they're watching their work for generations.
They know their audience.
Which is not the case for us. For us, it's like, house full ho gaya? Arey?
It's always a surprise.
We don't know why. We don't know how. We don't know what works really. Like, of course, there's a lot of marketing stuff that happens that works and but like that's a little bit like some marketing department is handling that. We are not able to understand any of it.
Which state or city do you think is doing very well in terms of theatre industry? And they have, like you said, in Nasik side and and Pune side maybe.
Pune, of course, is such a great place to make experimental work and to like, I think it's also changing, like these are all changing landscapes, but like Pune for the longest time has held that kind of like, हम लोग कहते थे कि बॉम्बे में लोग थिएटर करते हैं, पुणे में लोग थिएटर के बारे में सोचते हैं. So it's really they think about what they make and they really try to make something that is really important and to them, and they have really strong artistic voices that come
The
out
culture is very strong there, very rich.
very rich.
So is it in Kerala?
Yes, I feel so.
Right,
So that's why I feel like regional theatre, and because theatre is very hyper local, it's the potential to be very hyper local, right? Like I live in Goa now, there is a theatre scene, which is a very much a part of their culture. It's part of their, it's part of their every festival, even if it's morning time, every occasion is marked with a play.
Right.
Religious, sometimes it's not religious, sometimes it's very socio-political, sometimes it's what's happening outside, sometimes it's just a comedy. But it's really very much a part of their culture, and so theatre, that exists in so many ways, in so many places, and it dies and then comes back, and it's just like constantly, it's a very old form, and it's so it depends on what you mean about what kind of theatre surviving. Not everything, like Bombay theatre has a lot of English Hindi plays. I don't think those survive very well in other cities. But a lot of really fantastic regional theatre, folk theatre that is part of their culture, that is part of who these people are. That survives brilliantly and actually makes a lot more headway in terms of form, in terms of content, in terms of creating artists who have a particular voice, much more beyond English theatre and Hindi theatre that is mostly Bombay, Delhi centric. Yeah.
Okay. In last 3-4 years, as soon as in Delhi, in North India, as soon as summer vacation starts, we see a lot of groups holding theatre workshops for kids. I mean, it's something that I've seen happening only last 3-4-5 years, maybe, or maybe because of social media. There's
I think it's always like summertime was Sanjana's baby at Prithvi. It's always happened.
right.
Years have always had a summer fiesta. So I think it's also like about what you get access to, and now I feel like it's become part of the vocabulary to have arts education for children and things like that.
Right. I wanted to ask you, how does theatre impact or shapes one's personality? That too at that age when kids are still in school, but intellectually, how does it help you?
No, I think it's for me. I mean, I've been working with kids for a long time, and I find it to be extremely crucial, and I find it to be extremely crucial part of every child's education, because I find because of this experiential thing of it, because you have to try it, because there is no conceptualizing actually in the theatre. There is only doing it, there is only crafting it, and there is only jumping in. And I think it allows kids to really explore who they are, find their creative voices, because there are also so many, like there's not just acting, there's so many ways to come to the theatre. I am not somebody who can be put on stage. I don't enjoy that, and I know that's not what I look forward to when I watch a play or when I work on a play. So when I work with kids who are introverts, who are not interested in kind of being in the spotlight in that sense, I know that there's still a lot of theatre work that can help them, because actually the thing is that the kids are very distracted, and kids are very they have a lot of things that they're trying to comprehend around in their heads, right?
lot of thoughts going on at the same time.
Lots of input. Everybody is like higher up, and so they're a little bit like constantly in this trying to make sense of it. And theatre is very present. Theatre allows you to be really focused. You cannot be thinking for anything else when you're sitting backstage in the play. And you have to cue something, even if it means going in darkness and moving a chair. It makes you really present.
Right.
It makes you really try and be in the moment. And it also, of course, because kids also have a very complicated life these days, I feel, not just these days, always. And so this is a really safe space to kind of talk a lot talk about a lot of things.
Ah.
I made all my friends in the theater, and it's the best place to make friends. It's like, because it forges a bond. It basically like takes a slice of life and brings it into a safe classroomy space, right? Like a workshop space. So it makes you really it makes you really work with each other, because there's no theater that's happening in one. There's no one person who can make a play.
It helps you lose your inhibitions. Like you said, for introverted kids.
I don't know if it helps you lose them. It definitely helps you confront them, because you have to find a way to work through that. So I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's the only thing they needed. I think many things that children need to kind of become fully formed individuals, but it does
Right.
help them, grapple with it, and grapple with it not in like an intellectual way, but like in a really, experiential, fun way, creative way. And all kids are creative. All kids are creative. There is no question about it. No. I don't know if all kids have a scientific mind, but I know that all kids have a creative mind.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I don't teach science. Maybe if I taught science, I would feel like maybe they all have, maybe they do. I mean, they're very logical. They're very, very logical. So I guess they have that in them, but they're really creative. And this is a really great place to be creative, because you're not just being creative with your hands or with your words or with your mind. You're being creative with your whole body, and everything that you have to offer is needed in the theater.
To ask you, should theater studies be included in Indian curricula?
No, 100%.
In schools?
Like, there's no question about it. Like, I think arts, all kinds of experiential arts learning is very, very critical for any child's growth. And it has to, but the thing is, like, it can't be, it has to, like for me, like, I've had this conversation again with, like, a lot of my colleagues about, like, just, I feel like just generally, education system needs to kind of broaden its horizon and put the child at the center and not do it top down. And so in that way, I feel like it's important for them to meet artists, to interact with artists. Like, the fact that I'm not a full-time theater teacher, I think helps me kind of get access to them in a different way sometimes, because sometimes even if they have a full-time theater program in the curriculum, it becomes like any other subject.
Right.
So I feel like it's a part of the larger system of how it should be implemented, but I do feel like it definitely helps, but it shouldn't be treated like any other subject. It should be really kind of, because lesson planning and facilitating a drama class can really put who your specific children are in the center of it. And so you can't really have like plans that just keep going on for years and years and years that you can just copy paste and make it like any other subject in that sense.
Right.
I mean, of course, like any subject, there are certain tools, certain things that everybody should learn, but how they learn it, how they interact with it can completely change from child to child. So that's something that I feel like one needs to kind of think about when they put this program in their curriculum. But yeah, I mean, it should definitely be in the curriculum for sure.
Theater has always pushed the envelope. In the sense, people have told taboo stories through theater, and it has been an instrument for some sort of social commentary or spotlighting the goods and bads of society. How has your writing been influenced by, what's happening in the world?
Yeah, I think you put it rightly that it does kind of talk about many things. I don't think it changes anything. I don't take that pressure on. I don't think only theater can change the society, or I don't think that me writing a great play will change the way people think. I don't take that responsibility, and it's honestly, that responsibility doesn't exist. It cannot happen. You need it can be a part, and I think I worked with a really great choreographer called Preeti Atra. She said it, and she's like, it can be. I think a changing society needs the arts, but the arts can't change society. And I think that's a really like poignant way to and really profound way to think about it, because it's not really. So we have to kind of also not give ourselves too much credit. We can be part of something. Like there's been a lot of very interesting theater in this country that has been part of part of resistance movements, part of struggles. Um,
Exactly.
you know, but they are part of it. Like, I mean, Safdar Hashmi is part of a larger movement that is happening at that time. And so these are things that are part of things. They're part of resistance struggle things, but they're not, it can't be in a silo. So I get impacted by what's happening in the world and around me, and I try to comprehend that by writing about it. So it affects me, and so it seeps into the play, but it's not, I don't mean it to necessarily affect other people or change people's opinions in that way.
Right.
Right now, at the phase of like trying to really learn and steal from my ancestors, so to speak, and trying to understand where I place myself in the whole line of system of things. So I'm just trying to read everything right now, from the Mahabharata to the Ramayana to the contemporary plays to experimental work. I'm looking at a lot of like Dadaist poetry now because of what I've worked on with Preeti. I'm being introduced to some great abstract movements in literature, and seeing how they inspire me. So I'm actually really I'm a reader, so I can read incredibly lots and of very varied kinds. So I don't really have a genre that interests. There's some genres that don't interest me in general, but mostly everything interests me.
Okay. So you don't really think consciously that my next play is going to be about this?
I think then it's kind of, I mean, it's not never a topic. It's mostly sometimes a character, or sometimes an incident, or sometimes an event, or like some people, or whatever, or I read another play and then something triggers that. I mean, I think that, but it's not really a genre thing, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are your current projects? And also, please talk about Abhivyakti if you.
Yeah, so that's a big project right now. It's curating. It's why it's keeping me really busy. Is curating for theatre at Abhivyakti, which is such an interesting. It's been so amazing. It's been really interesting to meet so many different kinds of theatre makers from every single part of this country, from parts I haven't even heard of, mostly because I'm ignorant. And it's been really, really, really fascinating and a huge. I mean, I'm learning every day. I'm learning because of the forms that people are working with, of the kind of work people have been doing, the kind of how theatre survives where nothing else survives, but theatre somehow survives. And so it's been really moving and really a big, big learning for me every single day. Every single day I've been involved in Abhivyakti, and I'm really hoping to be able to bring as much of that variety and as much of that learning onto the stage at the festival. So, yeah, it's good.
So, as a curator, what do you have to do?
You have to screen all the applications. The wonderful thing about Abhivyakti is that I think it ends up meeting almost everybody. You end up meeting almost everybody who applies. I mean, now this year the numbers have been too huge, so it feels like a very difficult prospect. Like we'll probably be meeting the people just for the first
The
screening.
festival has become very famous.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers have been just way too many for us to meet everybody, but we're trying to meet as many people as we can. And
Right.
that's a big thing. And then, of course, to kind of screen and take them through and make sure that they're able to kind of achieve what they're looking at. And of course, like I said, like to make it an eclectic enough collection of ideas and propositions from various parts of the country, hopefully many languages. So that's been, yeah.
Okay. So tell me, have you worked in and around Mumbai only, or have you traveled to other cities as well for projects?
I have traveled. I have spent a lot of time in Bombay, and Bombay has kept me quite busy. But I have worked a little bit in Bangalore, a little bit in Delhi, a little bit. I mean, of course, one travels with shows all across the country. But yeah, with projects, I think mostly in these two areas. Or I worked a little bit in Rajasthan once for one
Okay.
project, researching something, like that. Those research projects take me quite nicely into other cities and other places.
Right. How was it working in Delhi?
Um, really nice. I mean, I had a very lovely time because I was working with lovely people. But I feel like it's a very very interesting. Sometimes you can get a really erudite audience that has a very good sense of theater, and but I'm also in general I'm not such a big fan of the city. So,
Okay.
although I really like it when I go there for like 5 days, but I feel like for a prolonged period of time,
That's the maximum you can tolerate.
I feel like, yeah, I'm also like, I mean, I'm asthmatic in general. I feel like I mean, it's more the psychological thing of like being in Delhi and being exposed to that air, I guess. But also, I think when I was there, I was a very young woman and I was very used to my Bombay lifestyle. And uh, Bombay, young woman in Bombay has a very, very privileged lifestyle compared to the rest of the country in terms
Sure.
of being very independent,
I agree. Yes.
local
Yes.
transport and any
Mhm.
time of the day and in the night, and it doesn't matter. And so all of that I think,
Yeah.
but yeah, but
Okay.
it's a very interesting work that happens in Delhi, and I'm very very excited for some of the things that are happening right now in Delhi.
Would you like to name a couple of plays that really impacted you as an audience, or even as I don't know, even as a technician or as a playwright?
This is the one I should have prepared for. I think, oh god, it's hard to recall this off my head, but I feel like working with Manav Paul has been quite life changing in that sense, because I really loved my work with him, and the work that I mean, I worked a couple of plays with him. I love those plays that I worked on with him. I loved most of his work. I think it's so fantastic, and he was such an interesting person to be around and learn from. Uh, I actually, more than shows, I've loved people's rehearsal rooms. And I, even when I try to go for, like, people call me for run throughs and things like that, or I call people for my run throughs. I really like it when people come to rehearsals rather than shows. Also, but, I mean, I like it when they come for the shows, but I feel like shows have a very different feel. But I love rehearsal rooms, and I've loved sitting in on Kwasa's rehearsal rooms. I've loved sitting in on Mohit Takalkar's rehearsal rooms.
Right.
I've learned so much just
Oh,
by being like a fly on the wall and just like absorbing what they're whatever they're saying or whatever they're
yeah.
doing, and it's just been yeah. So those plays, and I mean, of course, the play and all of that, like, it's fun, and sometimes when you're working on a play, it's really hard to kind of have a too much perspective of whether it's a favorite play or it's a good play or not, like, so, but it's about what you feel when you're working on it. I think that's what defines like the majority of it.
What is your most cherished memory of a play that you have done?
Like, I mean, there's so many, because it's like such an incredible experience. I mean, I think I'm coming off of a very, very intellectually, spiritually, emotionally satisfying and inspiring process of working on Preeti Athreya's new piece, Rubber Girl. And that's been fantastic. But I think I remember things like being. So in these Tespo plays, when you do backstage, you don't end up really watching the play. You just watch a couple of rehearsals, and then you're supposed to just be a support to them backstage. Like
Right. Okay.
push, like make sure something happens on time, or just push on time. But you don't really know because they've just come. Like the group has just come to perform tonight, and you're just like part of the festival, helping them support.
Right.
And I remember this wonderful play that Abhay Mahajan actually had directed, who's become a dear friend now. And I remember watching a couple of rehearsals and being very intrigued by what he was doing. And the way he was conducting his room was so nice. And then I remember like the lights went out, the house lights off, everything off, audience is in, the play started. I remember sitting in that darkness, waiting for my one cue, or whatever that I had to do, just open a door for somebody or something silly like that. But just waiting with that urgency and that full focus, really trying to listen. And I saw even the rest, he had a huge crew and cast, and they were all waiting there in the wings, laughing at what was listening to what was happening, laughing, giving all their energy as if they're on stage.
Right.
I felt myself doing that too. I felt myself completely being with the play, even though I had no idea what was going on. I don't think I even knew Marathi then. It was in Marathi, and my Marathi is now much better. So I didn't have any language. But I remember somebody started wailing on stage, and I started to cry backstage. And I remember feeling like, wow, like this is, I think for when I was 17 something year old, it was such a powerful experience of being involved in something bigger than you,
Right.
very, very crucial to me. But yeah, theater is like full of fantastic. It's a really good life, actually. I consider myself incredibly lucky to be living this life.
So talking of life in theatre, please tell us about the career avenues. Is there a surge in number of people who want to join theatre as full-time career?
You have to do a bunch of things in the theatre to survive. And pay your rent and pay your bills. And I also do a bunch of different things, including some odd film work, including some odd, teaching gigs, whatever. It takes a lot of effort to do that.
So that has always been the case now. This is such a career option.
No, it's not. So I think it's not about the quantity of people. For me, like, I think it's always about quality. So I feel like I'm interested in not simply that young people are doing theatre. Of course, it's nice that they're doing theatre, but I'm interested in the kind of work that they're making and the kind of work that they're doing. And I feel like that needs like a certain, I feel like that needs to be kind of really, because we really do have, training is a big problem in our country. There are some really great schools that are regional schools like Neenasam and things like that are really fantastic. But then when you come out, what do you do? How do you pay your rent? How do you find the next gig? How do you start it? So all of these things they're always going to be a hassle, and there's always going to be, not a very easy road for young people. But so for me, it's like, it's hard. Like, don't do it if you're not crazy about it. Like, do something else, because we don't need it. Does, because it's really hard to live this. It's really hard. You want to survive. You want to put work out there. It's really difficult to be good. To be a good theatre maker is really difficult. Not simply financial. It's also it's a difficult medium, and it really challenges you, and you have to be ready to really surrender to it, and really go through your life with it, And I think that, there are many easy ways to live in this world. So I think, and if you feel like there are other easier options. Like, I don't think I have an option. I think I can't do anything else. I have to do this, and I only can do this, and I only will do this. Like, so for me, it's like a disease,
Because you're passionate.
Yeah,
Because you
yes.
love your work, huh?
Yeah, and I feel like if you don't really love it like this, then don't do it. Like, to go do something else. Go do something that's a little bit easier on your heart and easier on your brain and your, you know.
I think a lot of people might consider, or they do consider theater as a stepping stone,
Yeah.
and eventually they migrate to films or other acting projects. But
Yes.
and not just acting. I mean, if you have experience of lights with theater, if you have experience of makeup, dresses, whatever, a lot of technicalities is involved. Sound. So I think a lot of people use this as, or they want it to be their stepping stone towards other
Yeah,
career.
see, it's a little bit like that. You can't really blame them because obviously it pays more money to do that work and survive. You can't really survive with the theater money is always. So I feel like, yeah, like you can't really. I mean, if people have to do what they have to do to kind of make ends meet, sure. But I do feel like there's also sometimes a sense that I get, which is simply in Bombay, because Bombay is where the film industry really is. Like, I feel like maybe in Bombay and maybe in Chennai, sometimes maybe it happens, like, where the big industries are, where you can do this, you can earn a living out of working in the film industry and things like that, because in the rest of the regional cinemas, maybe you maybe that's pretty much like theater, maybe you don't make enough money to make ends meet there either. But in Bombay, and especially in Bombay and maybe in Chennai as well, like, you can really work in the film industry as a young person and make yourself a decent amount of money. I think that my only objection, if there is one, is to the fact that there is a little bit of a brain drain. Like, there's a little bit of a sense of like because intellectually, theater work does not give people time to grow and become the directors that they could possibly be, intellectually grow and put all their creative energies into the theater, because now they're already shifting and trying to hustle this other gig.
Right.
And so backstage conversations become about auditions that they've been giving for films rather than about the work that they're doing and the work that they really want to do in the theater. So for me, that's, I feel, is like the flip side of this OTT boost, which is obviously